because you're not someone who wants to talk about it a lot. You know, well, not that you don't want to talk about it, but it's in the past. And you talk a lot about how you don't deal in the past, you deal in the future, in the present, and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, it consumed you for 7-8 years. It was your life. It was everything. We're so far removed from it now, but there have been so many replicas, some that you've been involved in with One Night Stand, which was truly, it felt like an ECW show. And then there was WWE's ECW, which was a perfectly serviceable television show. There was TNA's revival of ECW. But what do you want or think that the legacy of ECW is now? What do you want people to remember?
What? 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 E? No, you say what? 3, 2, 1. E? C? W? Extreme? Hardcore? What? 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 And that's the bottom line, because Manchester said so. That's what I want remembered. That it was all of us together. That it was just something that we could all believe in and watch artists ply their trade and go there and know that if you spent $1, you're getting $10 for your money. We under-promised and we over-delivered, and we never lied to the fans, and we never broke a stipulation, and that we enjoyed it twice as much as you did. Even when New Jack was stabbing white people and diving on top of them. We kind of enjoyed it, to be honest with you. You know, it's funny. Vince McMahon likes to say we have the privilege of performing for the audience. And there is nothing that Vince says that I agree with more than that. It's a privilege to perform for the audience. And in ECW, it was a privilege and an honor. And it was the best time of a lot of people's lives. And I wish I could say it was the best time of my life, but I don't reflect on it enough to make that judgment, because I'm always trying to make tomorrow better than today and 2 days from now better than tomorrow. But my God, did we have a good time. Even in the bad times, we had those 2.5 to 4 hour shows. That even in the worst of times, when we had no more money, when we were bankrupt, when checks wouldn't clear, when my checks wouldn't clear, 2 people, and I'm sitting there looking at people that I've been trying to pay for 6 months and I can't even pay them. And they're saying, "What do I do tonight, boss? What do I do?" And how do you tell somebody when you can't pay them? Well, you know what I think we need tonight? I think you need to be covered head to toe in blood. I think you need to dive off a balcony through a table. I think you need to go 35 to 45 minutes. And I think you need to finish the match with diving off the top rope on top of a chair with a guy underneath the chair, and you land on your ribs and you sell your ribs while you cover them 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to send these other guys down. They're going to kick the living you, and then I'm going to hit New Jack's music, and they're going to shut him down. I'm going to hit Sandman's music. The people are going to sing the song. He's going to smash the beer can into his head. He's going to kick the out of every heel in the ring with a Singapore cane, and then you're going to stand in the middle of the ring and drink a couple beers and get drunk before you come back to the locker room and realize you ain't getting paid. And they'd sit there and go, "I'll do that." Because of the give back, because of the affirmation from the crowd, because of the adulation from the crowd, because when the night was over and the crowd chanted ECW, then those guys would sit there and say, "Man, I did a hard day's work, and look at the reward, look at the love, look at the respect, look at the admiration, the adulation, the affirmation that I got." And you'd sit there, and more so than an ECW wrestler looking over at another ECW wrestler and going, "Hey man, thanks for the match, man. You protected my body out there. You didn't let me land on my head, though we gave the illusion that I did. Hey man, I love you, thank you." They'd sit there and go, "Wasn't that crowd great? God, I love those people. And that's what it was about for them. So what do I want the legacy to be? What do I remember most about it? What fills my heart and my soul about ECW was the and I talked about this a little bit last night. It was the intimacy and this is gonna sound so up psychologically. Like seriously, I should be on a psychiatrist's couch going, yeah, doc, this is how we felt. And just the doctor going, you are very up in the head today. But it was the love that we shared with the audience, celebrating the most violent product that had ever been seen at the time. And in the midst of this violent, bloody, women bashing, beer drinking, table smashing, neck crunching action was this love affair with the audience that the audience had with each other, which because they were singing songs together and bouncing up and down together, the appreciation they thrust upon the wrestlers, and the wrestlers' need for that love to come in their direction. And that was just what the promotion was about, plying the trade of an artist having a canvas in which to show off his hard work, and an audience that sits there and says, we appreciate your hard work. Thank you for doing it. Thanks for sharing your hard work with us. That's the legacy of ECW. Whose trajectory would I change at the moment? First guy, Cesaro. Top talent, main event, easy. Give me a layup, an obvious main eventer, and the only person with whom he doesn't connect is the front office, and I don't get it. The guy is a star, can work his just. There are others who are great workers, and there are others who could be stars, or others who should be stars, and I know the backstory as to why they're not stars, as to why they don't get the main event opportunity, and some of it is business related, and some of it is based on the ratings that they pull, and some of it is based on simply the fact that when put into position, it didn't garner the numbers that the company was looking for, and they're gonna have to work their way back into that spot again. But, and there's a number of those people, and some of them should be on top, and some of them deserve the other chance now, and they've been waiting too long. But of all of them, the one guy, if I could just walk in today and go, listen, just make this guy a top guy, we'll all make a lot of money, Cesaro.
Someone in the past who's retired or whatever that you think if you'd had a chance to take them under your wing, that you could have saved them or made them a top guy that never got the chance to be from the past?
Raven was a top guy. Raven was. Honestly, and I actually read for the first time what Raven wrote in the program. I just read it backstage and was moved a lot by it. Raven should never have left ECW. He put himself in the hands of the wrong people. He put himself in the hands of people that had no vision for that character. So, I think he'd be the first one to tell you that, that at a time when we were about to experience potentially the greatest growth because we just found pay-per-view, the guy who could have become the face of the brand because he was such an upstart, such a revolutionary, such a well-played character that he just put himself in the hands of people that just didn't give a shit about who the soul of Raven was. And I loved that character as much as I did any other character in ECW. Scott Levy portrayed that character like nobody else ever could. The character of Raven was invented by two people. Scott Levy had this concept, and he pitched it to one person who was obsessed with pop culture and the music revolution and the hip hop revolution and not that Raven was hip hop, but his character was this angst. See, here's the magic of Raven. The magic of Raven was that he was a sympathetic character who deserved no sympathy. He was beaten by his drunken father, but you didn't feel bad for him. He came from a broken home, of which a lot of people could identify with, but nobody could identify with him. Why? Because he was such a great heel that and what a performer, by the way, at that time, that nobody cheered him. That in front of the smartest audience in the world at the time, he could outsmart them on a nightly basis. It wasn't the 50-50 thing that you see now where people go, yeah, he's a heel, but I respect his work. Oh, he's a heel, but he's a great worker. People hated Raven. They paid to see him lose. They paid to see him get his ass kicked. People paid for 2.5 years waiting for Tommy Dreamer to finally get that first victory over Raven. Why? Because of the brilliance of Scott Levy's performance. No one outside of two people, Scott Levy and Paul Heyman, understood that, because we had the privilege, again that word, and the blessing of creating that character together. Now, when you hand that over to an Eric Bischoff on Eric's best day at his brightest, no, I'm not knocking him on this. Anybody in here on your best day, on your brightest, won't be able to tap into the soul of that character because you didn't create it. Because you weren't there when we sat there for days on end and said, who is this guy? What's his history? What's his story? When do we reveal that his father was a drunk? When do we talk about the beatings he suffered as a child? How many weeks in, how many years into the story do we reveal that? And if you're not part of that process, how can you possibly then be within the soul of the character? If you and you, any of you sat in a room and created a character and let it play out on television, where this character evolves and this character has all these layers, and then you hand the character to me after 4 years and say, run with it, I can't. I'm going to have to change this character by giving him part of a vision that I will see, because I wasn't in those discussions where you very carefully decided what day this new layer gets peeled back. Eric Bischoff could never have booked Raven properly because he didn't understand the soul of Raven. Vince McMahon could not have written for Raven properly because he didn't understand the soul of Raven. And Scott Levy was so inside the soul of Raven that when you tried to get this character to go in a different direction, it didn't make sense to Scott Levy anymore, because inside his heart was the blood of Raven. I can't say that Raven didn't have a chance at being the main event. He did. He went for what he found to be a much greater opportunity in WCW. Financially it was, but in terms of the development of that character, it wasn't, okay? Who never had a shot on top? I'll give you a different answer, okay? I'll give you one that doesn't truly answer your question, but addresses it. Who should have been a much bigger star than they were? Sabu. And a lot of that, much like Shane Douglas, and Sabu will be the first one to confess to this, was self-inflicted, but by the time Sabu had an opportunity to perform in front of a much bigger audience than ECW could present to him, Sabu had destroyed his own body, both in the ring and with out-of-ring activities, and the world never got a chance to really see the best of Sabu unless you either A, have videotapes from 1993, 1994, the beginning of 1995, or and I'm not plugging the WWE network, but if you happen to get it and they have those shows on it and Sabu's on those shows, you can see him at his best. Or on any other, YouTube, whichever method you choose. Sabu in that era was revolutionary. He was ahead of his. That's the thing about being ahead of your time. You don't make the money that other people will, stealing all of your. In which case, ECW, bankrupt, Attitude Era, billionaires. So. Sabu falls into that. Sabu had the right, or should have gone down in history as truly one of the most influential, one of the most groundbreaking superstars ever. And I don't think that'll be his legacy, though. And again, he has to take some of the blame for this, but that's the answer. Of all the people that I've seen in the past 30 years, who deserved more than he ended up with, Sabu.